Imagine someone asking, should women be allowed to vote? Sounds ridiculous, right? Like, how is that even a question? But here's the wild part. Not so long ago, that was a real debate. People genuinely argued, loudly, that women just weren't fit to vote. They said women were too emotional. They said women were too fragile. They said women were not smart enough to make political decisions. Half of humanity written off. Let's rewind to the late 1800s and early 1900s. Back then, voting was a privilege reserved for men. Women were expected to stay quiet. Women were expected to stay home. Women were expected to stay out of politics. If you were a woman with an opinion, well, tough luck. Society just didn't want to hear it. But here's where the story gets epic. Enter the suffragettes, women who refused to accept the rules. These women didn't just ask politely for the right to vote. They marched in the streets, they organized protests, they sometimes even went to jail for their cause. Think about the guts that took, facing ridicule, facing violence, facing prison, just for demanding to be treated as equals. And it wasn't just about voting, it was about challenging the entire idea that women were somehow less than men. Every protest, every speech, every risk. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for generations to come. Finally, after decades of struggle, the world started to listen. In 1920, women in the United States won the right to vote with the 19th Amendment. Other countries followed, some sooner, some later. But it happened because women refused to be silenced. Now, in 2025, the idea of women not voting feels absurd. It's just obvious. Of course, everyone should have a say in how society is run. But here's the thing. It's only obvious because brave people made it obvious. They challenged the norms and refused to accept that's just the way it is. So next time you see a ballot, remember, it wasn't always a given that everyone could use one. And if anyone ever tells you change is impossible, remember the suffragettes. They turned the impossible into history.